Good morning and welcome to Strategic Internet Public Relations, or SIP for short. We've got a great month for you. Let me dig in and tell you a little bit about SIP. It's good to have you back, by the way. So you know who I am. I'm Dr. John Reneski, and what we're going to do this month is we've got a project that runs all month. It doesn't have to, but I have it run all month. And that project is a public relations crisis. Now, you can choose to work with somebody, or you can choose to do this alone. So what I do ask is that you let me know in week one which way you're going to do it and who you're going to choose. Now, what crisis that you're going to choose. Let me tell you a little bit about the case study, the crisis. You're looking for an example of something that has already happened, and then you want to take that apart and diagnose it based on the skills and the strategies that you're learning in this class. Once you have done that, then you want to then offer an alternate solution. So the first is a current state assessment of that situation. Why did it happen? And this should take you a minute and a half at most. Get right to what was the root cause of the crisis. You can provide a little bit of background on the company to set the context, but you want to get right into what the issue was. Then talk about what they did to resolve it, and then talk about how you would come in and what you would do the same and what you would do different based on the strategies that you've learned this month. And again, you can do that either individually or you can work as a team. I've found that I keep trying to make this an individual assignment, but I have a lot of students that tell me just how much they love working as a team in order to do this project. Okay, so week one, we take a look at a number of things. We take a look at worldviews. One of the reasons for that, so philosophy, and the reason that we do that is because really public relations came to its own back in the 80s when Johnson & Johnson had a major crisis. And there was people poisoning Tylenol. And Johnson & Johnson really wrote the book on crisis management. They came out stronger than ever. And what was happening was people were dying. People were ingesting cyanide as a result of somebody tampering with their over-the-counter pharmaceuticals. And that's what determined a crisis back in the day. People died. Today, if somebody dies, it's certainly a crisis, but we're more than likely dealing with crises of my feelings are hurt. That's right. My feelings are hurt can be a major public relations crisis for a number of companies. And I've been watching some recent trends in Florida that are interesting to say the least, where a number of companies have been changing policy in order to avoid the impression that they could hurt somebody's feelings when you get right down to it. So that's why we have you look at philosophy and worldview. We look at ethics in public relations in week one. So the discussion is very, very hearty, everything from ethics to worldview. But I want you to understand what postmodernism is, and I want you to understand what critical theory is, because those two ideals, and we'll talk more about them later this week, those two ideals are what drive most of the worldview today. So that's the week one discussion. And then the other thing that we do in marketing in general, we always start with research. And in public relations, it's really business or marketing intelligence. So we ask you to, one, understand the strategic context that your company exists in, and then what are the ways that you can monitor to ensure that you have the information coming in to make proper decisions. And I'll talk more about this later. But essentially, we're looking at three different types of business intelligence. We're talking about competitors, we're talking about consumers, and then we're talking about the overall business environment. Each of those are areas where you need to be monitoring information on a regular basis and collecting information so that you can be an effective public relations operator. Then in week two, we actually get into building a press release. Now, a press release is what I like to call the creative brief for what in public relations we call a newsworthy event. So we're going to be talking about newsworthy events, and tease you a little bit, we'll talk about real and not so real newsworthy events, what we call pseudo events. And then we'll also talk about how those are then translated into a press release. Then, and we start thinking about how else we can use that newsworthy event to do public relations work. And that's exactly what we end up doing in week 3. We develop a distribution plan around the press release, and which again is tied to the newsworthy event. And then in week 4, we tie it all together with the crisis management report and presentation being due. And you should be applying everything that we've learned throughout the prior 3 weeks into that presentation when it comes time to what actions you would take. Okay, that's the course in a nutshell. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I haven't yet gone through all the commercials from and everything that happened with regard to the Super Bowl last night. We do have an example from last year's Super Bowl that we'll incorporate, and I'll see what I can incorporate this month from last night. I think I saw a good share of the commercials. If I had to summarize, I would say last year, most of the commercials I thought were horrible. This year, there was a lot of attempt at humor, and the humor was based on cameo appearance. So it was quite interesting to see who popped up in what commercials. At any rate, this is Dr. John Reneski. It's great to have you back again, and I look forward to a wonderful month. Talk to you soon. Bye now.